Let's bring on our guest for the evening. He is just about ready, and here he is, Brian McArdle of From the Stand Sports US, Tampa Bay Bucks fan. Brian, welcome to Big Blue Avenue.
Thank you, Tom. For all the times I've had you on the show, it's nice to be on your show. And hello to you guys as well, the Big Blue Nation out there. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Now, for people who don't know you, can you just tell us about your podcast a little bit and where people can find that?
Yeah, sure. So I do From the Stand Sports. It's a college football game day show. Obviously, your man Tom here comes on and co-hosts with Andy Hopper. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube at From the Stand Sports. And the Twitter's a little different. It's like From the Stand Sports US. Someone had the handle. We couldn't nab it from him. So, but yeah, all the college football action that you can need. So if you love the NFL, you want to know who your team might want to pick up in the upcoming draft, come check us out, and you can see a little bit more of Tom every week.
Which I'll be seeing you tomorrow morning as well, bright and early. Looking forward to it. But Brian, we brought you here for a little bit of a different reason tonight to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I guess we'll shoot straight down the line with some of these questions. And it's been brutal for Tom Brady these last couple of weeks. 4 picks in his last 2 games. The Washington game, they did not look good. 2 picks in the first quarter. First time he's done that in 9 years. And the Bucs, as a unit, just had 273 yards of total offense. What do you attribute the Brady turnovers and the Bucs offensive struggles to these last couple of weeks?
I mean, let's be honest. It is Brady. I think he does know what he's doing, but we've seen a little bit of uncertainty, I guess, between him and the sideline, and that comes down to what him and Byron Leftwich, what they're deciding with these play calls. And typically, start of the season, new team. Let's remember, people, he was with the Patriots his entire career. This is still a new system for him. Byron Leftwich is still pretty young. And now we've got receivers left and right just dropping like flies. I don't know if you guys have talked about this yet already, but Antonio Brown caught earlier today with a fake COVID card.
I saw that.
Yeah, he was questionable already. I can't imagine the NFL is going to be letting him play this weekend or the games coming up, I would assume. So, yeah, he's been missing some big targets, and the adjustment has been a little bad. Yeah, I think this is just, regular season jitters. I don't think there's anything serious to be concerned about here. The only thing I'm concerned about is, the play calling, how he's waved off Leftwich. I hope that's not like a personality war going on between the two, because I think Brady is actually, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's older than Leftwich by like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a little weird dynamic going on there. I'm not entirely worried. The one interception, like I said, we've lost so many of our core receivers to injury. Darden goes in. These guys that Brady's been able to rely on, no turnovers, no fumbles. Darden's first catch of the game, he tries to turn with it, just no ball security at all. Ball gets flipped up into the air. It counted as an interception, but might as well have been a fumble on Darden. So, I mean, not the best, but I don't think this is going to, go on for the rest of the season here.
Yeah, no, I think the Bucs have too much talent to just fall apart and collapse. I would be really shocked if that happened. And by the way, I actually looked it up. Byron Leftwich was actually 2.5 years younger than Brady.
Okay.
Pretty scary. But either way, pretty close.
Right.
Anyways, my question regarding last week's game. So one of the big reasons the Buccaneers lost in that game, I think, was because Washington scored on each of their first 4 drives in that game. How did the Bucs fall into such a hole so early?
Complacency, I guess. I think so. One of the biggest things, we'll get into this a little bit later here, but I don't like our secondary at all. Pretty much the entirety of it right now. Obviously, again, the injury is just not great. But I think last season, people knew with Brady at the helm, he's a very calming presence. Everyone has seen, the memes, of Brady sitting on the sideline. If you see this, like, your team's in trouble. like those viral pics of Brady. And for the most part, that is true. But that doesn't work when you have all these injuries. Like, you can't go to the sideline and be like, okay, it's going to be okay. We got Brady. It's just touchdown. It's just a field goal. By that time, halftime, you're down 10, could have been even more. We had a very, very dumb penalty on 3rd and 2. I think it was a Golston, I think, made a terrible jump.
William Golston.
At the 2-minute warning. They get a first down and goes, kick another field goal. So just dumb mistakes that I think have been brought by the complacency that, Brady's a very calming presence. But when you have all these key players missing, I think they need to be on their toes more than they were last season. So.
I mean, you've been kind of answering the question that I was going to ask regarding the lack of stars on your offense and the injuries. And I guess, how much of that would you attribute to this losing streak that you guys have been on? Like, do you think it's the injuries that is the main cause of it, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's entirely because of that, but I mean, these are key players. And I think, the biggest thing here is that it's two sort of dueling sets of players. We have our wide receivers, which is that are gone. That's not helping Tom. I mean, obviously Gronk as well, but our receiving core. And then the other side of the ball, we have pretty much our entire secondary out, save for I think one regular starter. And so we get into this problem where the secondary is so weak, we're getting exposed. We go down early, and then you have to rely on Brady to, bring us back. We still have a running game. Fournette, very good, but when you get behind early, you're throwing the ball more. That's forced Brady into these mistakes with guys that he might not be throwing to as much if he had his decision, I guess, if everyone was healthy. So it's not a great situation, but if at least once, if we can get our receiving core back, or if we can get our secondary back, just one of those two groups, I think it'll at least balance the playing field a little bit for us.
Or if you could get Aaron Robinson back after 4 years.
Yeah. I'd be fine bringing him back to Florida.
But my next question is actually about the defense. This is a good transition. I look at this defense and I see a lot of very talented players, right? On the edge, you got Shaq Barrett with 5.5 sacks. You have Jason Pierre-Paul. Levante David is a tackling machine. He's been that way for the past decade. In the secondary, you just drafted Antoine Winfield. Jamel Dean has been a good player, 2 interceptions on the season. But the two leaders to me are Devin White, who just blew up last week with 2 sacks, and Antoine Winfield, another special player who consistently gets close or to double-digit tackles every week. He's kind of like a box safety who can also pass cover pretty well. Focus on those two players for me, Brian. What impresses you the most about both of those players? And the reason why I'm pinpointing on them, not only are they great, but they're young. They're very, very young players.
So I'll split it into the two, because I personally don't think Winfield, I guess, is as good as maybe. I mean, I know you pick these. You pick these two because of their stat lines, and from an outsider's perspective, that they are very good on paper. Devin White, I think, is a phenomenal player. So I'll start with him because I actually do like him. He just has elite speed, elite size. He's a hawk to the ball in the middle of the field, which right now, when you have these guys giving up receptions, I guess more frequently, I'll say, you love to have guys like that who are going to close the play down quickly. Whereas on the other side with Winfield, I think his stat line is more due to the fact that he will give up more big plays. So those tackles come because he has to make the tackle in the first place. I could go on a very long tangent about Jason Licht, our GM, and his decisions in the drafts and how much I do not like them. We've seen a lot of secondary come in and then leave because they just weren't good. And that's not even going back the last 10 years. Just in the last 3 or 4 drafts, we've had guys who just have not worked out. I think with the exception of Carlton Davis, I haven't liked many of them. Listen, Winfield is a decent player. I don't think he's elite. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this is I just don't like him because I didn't want him in the draft, which is ironic because the guy who I did want us to trade up for is on your team, Xavier McKinney. So would have loved to get him. We ended up with store brand McKinney.
You did.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, if you guys want to send him our way, I'd love to get a trade going there. Since you like Winfield so much, I'll send Winfield up to you.
We're good.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Oh, well.
Brian loves the SEC, and, we're going to talk a lot about the SEC tomorrow. So I've had just about enough of that conference already. But, Hank, why don't you take over for a second while I regain my composure?
Yes, for sure. Now, we talked about your side of the defense. Now, I think it's worth talking about the Giants' side of the defense. They have actually significantly improved over the last 3 games. As a matter of fact, I don't think they've allowed a touchdown in the second half of the last 3 games either. Fun fact. What about this defense scares you the most, in your opinion, Brian?
The fact that you guys actually have a decent secondary that we would love to have. Listen, I mean, I just named him, but Xavier McKinney has been fantastic. He's got 7 pass deflections. He's got a pick 6. I don't recall what game that came from, but I think he's got 4 interceptions in total. And listen, you guys are on the upswing right now, and we are on the downswing hard. So this could be a lot of trouble for us. I'm hoping not. I don't want to get your hopes up too much, but I don't think, like, since we've gotten Brady, I've been pretty calm. Like, we lose a game, we're like, all right, it's whatever. But you lose 2 in a row, and then you get that itch. You're like, oh man, is something bad happening here? But yeah, I wish I had been able to watch more of you guys' games. As Tom can attest, I'm usually on Twitter late into the night watching college football from 11 a.m. to midnight with our late Pac-12 action. So besides Bucs games, I don't get to watch too many of the neutral site games. But watching you guys' show, I've seen at the very least the sentiment towards the Giants, start to pep up a little. So that is at least a little bit scary for us as Bucs fans.
I don't think you need to watch the Giants. I mean, you know us in the back of your brain. I mean, you've come in the comments section and predicted pretty much every game correctly the entire season. So
I was going to say, you're the only one, I think, that has, during our show, correctly predicted multiple Giants wins. So that alone gives you a proper applause right there.
Well, thank you.
I want to just get to this comment quickly. My good friend Clark Posha asked me, do the Raiders have a chance against the high-powered Bengals offense? I mean, they have a chance, but do I think they're going to win? I'm not too optimistic about that. Sorry, Clark.
They just lost to us.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Yeah. I try to swing that in the Giants' direction.
I'm not even going to try to, get into their whole ordeals off the field either.
They had a new one.
Better.
They had a new one as well after Ruggs, right? Someone
that was
death threat.
Arnett.
Yes, yeah.
And that was the guy that they wasted one of their Khalil Mack picks on. So that makes it worse.
Both were 2020 first rounders.
We can go on.
Clark, love you. Love your optimism. Had a blast enjoying the game with you a couple weeks ago, but just wanted to show him a little love in the comments.
Circling back to the Buccaneers here. The Buccaneers, like you said, there have been times where, in the middle of the season, they might start to decline a little. We saw that last year as well. And obviously it didn't seem to cause too much problems because they came up with a Super Bowl win last year. But do you think that this is the time that it's finally going to kick into gear? Do you think that they're going to keep on slumping down or are they back on their way up?
Oof. That is a tough question. If this was coming off like a single loss, I would say, 100% will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it depends. Looking at the schedule, it's a little rough, at least for the next few weeks, is what I'll say. Then it gets a little bit easier towards the end. We've got a big game against Buffalo. With the way we're playing, that could be really tough. I don't think I would lock us in for a win with that. Indianapolis, they're okay, but it's a game on the road. I mean, hell, we just lost to the 2-6 Washington football team, so yeah, I think we'll be fine. I don't think we're gonna see anything like a bye week for us into the NFC. I think the Rams are a really great team. Packers, I mean, I think we probably fall behind both of those teams by the end of the season, but we'll see. I mean, it's the first season with 17 games, so maybe something weird happens towards the end. But yeah, I'm overall I'm still positive.
Trying to see where you guys are ranked right now. Are you guys 3? Trying to think.
Are you in what, the NFC?
NFC, yeah.
I believe we're 4th or tied for 4th.
Actually, you are 4 now because Dallas won and you lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough because you get whoever doesn't win the NFC West. And I mean, yeah, the Cardinals have lost a couple of games, but it's been Colt McCoy starting. It hasn't been Kyler Murray. They haven't had DeAndre. I know that's one team you didn't mention in that list right there. So I think that's another team that could potentially make some noise in the playoffs. I know at least one of us here has them winning the NFC West. Sam. Sam has the Cardinals winning the NFC West. So look, they very well might. They beat the Rams. So, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Rams have a couple new pieces now. Hopefully they pan out well for them. But Brian, we're gonna start to preview this game with you. Giants Bucks 3-6 against 6-3 at Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football. The Giants lead the all-time series 16-8. They've won 7 out of their last 9 meetings, despite being 11-point dogs in this game. I know we talk about lines a lot on From the Stand, so I figured I'd incorporate that here. Daniel Jones' first career win actually was against Tampa Bay. And we know how Tom Brady hasn't performed historically well against the Giants, but I feel like that's been more in the playoffs than the regular season. Hank and Sam, would you agree with that? Because it seems like since 46, Brady's had our number whenever we've met him.
Yeah, he has that chip on his shoulder every time he plays the Giants. We live in his head rent-free. Like, he just wants to come back to haunt them and give them some form of retribution,
Yeah, I would agree. It's the thing that he knows he'll never come to the point where he plays the Giants in the Super Bowl again and gets a win. So it's definitely something that sits in the back of his brain for quite a number of years now.
Yeah.
Heck, I'm sure the Eagles he feels the same way against the Eagles too.
I'm sure he feels that way about Nick Foles. I don't know if he feels that way about the Eagles.
Well, he did beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl once. He's 1-1 against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So he does have a win against them. But
yes, that was the one where McNabb yacked on the sideline and Andy Reid pretty much used up way too much clock in the fourth quarter.
He's having too much Campbell's chicken noodle soup. Remember he was on those commercials? That was so funny.
Yes, I remember that.
Syracuse guy. But anyway, we talked about bad timing. The Bucks have lost 2 in a row, but Brian, I don't know if you're giving the Bucks enough credit for the way they've performed at home this year. They are 4-0 at Raymond James Stadium. They defend their home turf very, very well, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was trying to keep it a little open-ended here. I know you guys do your predictions at the end, so I didn't want to get a little too high and mighty on us. But yeah, they have been doing very well at home. So obviously, you love to see that as a fan. It's a Monday night game. Historically, the Bucks aren't that great on Monday night. I think they're like dead 500. I forget how many games it's been, but yeah, the Monday Night Football always throws a little bit of extra spice into it. So we'll see. I don't know. I just don't trust my secondary so much that it's giving me so many nerves. Like I would not be surprised if we lost. So that's all I can say about that.
Well, look, I mean, you're in a good spot, in my opinion. And before we get to keys to the game, just a couple more things that I think are really starting to go the Giants' way. Andrew Thomas returning to practice. Barkley will be back. returning to the lineup for the first time since week 5. And Sam and Hank's 2 breakout players for the second half of the season, Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay. Brian talked about a weak secondary. I mean, these 2 guys are the Giants' 2 best wide receivers, because I don't think Sterling Shepard's playing yet this week. He didn't even practice today. The one thing that might save him is the game is on Monday night, but I don't think he's going to play. So I'm looking at Kadarius Toney. I'm looking at Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, too, with the way that the Buccaneers defense works is their run defense is very good. And even if we have Barkley back, who has not really shown me all that much this year, and Booker is, going to be in the mix, hopefully, I'd like that a lot. We got to pass the ball. We got to throw the ball a lot more. So that's why I'm looking at Toney. That's why we're looking at Golladay, because these are going to be the guys that Daniel Jones is going to be looking down the field to in order to make some major plays.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the passer rating, when targeting Toney, Jones has a 109.8 rating. That is the highest among rookie wide receivers. Brian, I know you were on the draft show and you saw all of our reactions, I believe, when the Giants drafted Kadarius Toney, and it was a rather interesting night, to say the least. But another Florida guy who played with Kyle Trask, who happened to be drafted by the way, you still give me goosebumps about your prediction on that night. Well, whoever gets Trask on day 2 is probably getting a real steal, and it happens to be your team. So that was the first of your string of just like very weird, like spooky predictions. But
that actually came after the Devonta Smith call. But yeah, going back to
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you predicted him as the Heisman winner.
Yeah, but going back to draft night, I do remember the Kadarius Toney reaction, and what I was going to say, I actually completely forgot that that wasn't your guys' favorite pick. But I didn't think he was going to, at least not immediately. I didn't think he was going to be a very big impact in the NFL, but he has adapted very, very well. He's a really shifty player, which we saw at Florida. I thought he was just going to get absolutely murdered, though, coming into the NFL if he was getting so much time on the ball. But he's adapted very well, very quickly. So, I know you guys would probably love to have Saquon back 100%, but for this game at least, I think you might actually benefit relying more on the passing game and having them, or at least having Saquon out for most of the game, because that's where we're getting exposed. So, let Toney run wild on us, because it probably will happen. If he gets past that first line of Devin White at the helm there, I think we're in trouble. So I don't know. I feel like most Giants fans would probably say no, give us Saquon back. But this is going from what I've seen with our defenses here.
I think that's a fair comment. I think that's a very fair comment. I mean, like I said earlier, Saquon is, we love Saquon and we want him to be the best that he can be, but we haven't seen much from him this season. And coming off of this injury and coming back, and I want him to do well, but I mean, Booker has done just fine for us in the run game with Saquon being out these past few weeks. So I honestly wouldn't even mind if he just took a seat during this game and took one more week, but probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Is that kind of the thoughts around, Giants Nation, that they maybe not will, but should sit him? Because he also had a knee injury last year, right? Yeah. It's kind of getting to the point where you want to protect, because, I mean, that's a franchise guy right there.
But then here's the problem. He's a free agent after the season. Like,
after
we're
next
in a
season.
tough place.
Yeah. I know. I just, it's something that's like driving me insane. And like, look, if I had to do it all over again, this isn't nothing against Saquon, but I probably would have just traded down the pick. But you know what? I'm just wasting my breath. It is what it is at this point.
It is what it is. And a lot of injuries have derailed the Giants as well this year. It's gotten to the point where the Giants just added Leonard McKinney to their active roster this week. They're very thin at linebacker. There's no Blake Martinez. Carter Coughlin is still on short-term IR. We don't know when he's coming back. So Like I said, they've been very thin. They've lost Nick Gates. They've lost Shane Lemieux. It's gotten to the point where Isaiah Wilson, who was also a 2020 first-round pick project that failed for Tennessee, is on the Giants practice squad transitioning from tackle to guard. So this is kind of like his last hope in the NFL. If he doesn't succeed at this position, he's not going to succeed at any position on the offensive line. So it is a little scary thinking about it. But let's get into our keys of the game. Sam, we'll start with you here. Give us, for the Giants at least, what are your keys to the game?
For this game, like I said, passing the ball is going to be definitely a big thing. And I'm going to go with targeting in the red zone because we have been, Daniel Jones gets the points on the boards for us somehow, but just passing the ball off, nickel and diming. But we need bigger plays. We need to get the ball down the field. We need to throw the ball more in this game. And love to see him target Kyle Rudolph in the end zone, not outside it and then run in. It'd be better if you're there. Like Hank was mentioning before earlier in the show, Kenny Golladay is a red zone receiver. We need to utilize him there. So I would say the best thing for us to do to get points on the board, target in the red zone, get in front of Tom Brady, because again, as much as Brian is a little skeptical about this, I will not bet against Tom Brady after 2 losses at home on prime time. So I think that the most important thing is get in front, get points on the board, target in the red zone, and pass the ball.
Yeah, that's a pretty vital and important key to the game. And as for me, I have a few keys to this game. The first one, Sam, what do you think I'm going to say?
Get off the field.
Bingo. I think that's one way you can stop Tom Brady to ensure that he loses 3 in a row for the first time. I don't think he has lost more than 2 games in a row in his career, if I'm not mistaken, actually.
I don't think so.
Number 2. And this is probably one of my new favorite keys to the game, and it really became this way ever since that loss to the Chiefs. Be disciplined. Keep the penalties to a minimum. You want to know the difference between the Chiefs game and the Raiders game? The Giants had 0 penalties in the second half against the Raiders. A few more penalties, we might have lost that game. And against the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, I'm going to warn you, Giants fans. Tom Brady gets a lot of calls. Don't expect that you're going to have stuff in your favor. So you got to be very careful against this team.
I agree with that for sure. For the Giants, I think obviously putting pressure on Tom Brady, right? You put pressure on Tom Brady, you're able to win football games. I mean, it's been done twice by us at the biggest stage of them all. The Bucs have the 6th ranked offense in the NFL, but as we mentioned, Brady's been shaky. 4 picks in the last 2 games, partially due to the fact that Leonard Fournette has been the leading target because defenses are keying in on Godwin and Evans because there is no Gronk, there is no AB over these last 2 games. So Leonard Fournette has been the check down guy. Washington also had 5 sacks last week. This was a defense that has been non-existent majority of the season. It's like Washington picked up right where they left off in last year's wild card game. I mean, Ron Rivera was just acting like he pulled off the upset of the century. And yeah, I think keeping Brady off the field is important. Brady had the ball for not even 21 minutes last week. Washington possessed the ball for over 38 minutes in this game. Taylor Heineke, Antonio Gibson, that Washington team, that 2-6 team, 38 minutes of ball. I mean, that's not a recipe for success for Tampa Bay. And that's why it leads into my next key is winning the battle of the trenches. I think we need to establish a run and keep Devontae Booker involved in the game plan, even if Barkley comes back and plays, which I think Barkley should play because I think gives you a better shot of beating Tampa Bay if he does. Keep Booker involved. Get him, somewhere between 7 to 10 touches, whether it's through the air or on the ground. But this is the problem. Why are the trenches so important? Brian mentioned this before, how the Giants should air it out because that's where the Bucs weakness lies defensively is in the secondary. Their front seven is rock solid. They have the second best run defense in the entire National Football League. They're not even giving up 80 yards a game. They've only given up 4 runs of 20-plus yards all year. We talked about Devin White and Levante David before. Vita Vea is a guy we haven't mentioned yet. He pretty much reminds me of what Dalvin Tomlinson was for us last year. And it's pretty much what it comes down to. You got to win the trenches in the running game, but you also have to win the trenches in the passing game. You have to protect Daniel Jones. Andrew Thomas being back is key because this quarterback has been sacked 20 times in 9 football games this season. And there was a very alarming stat that was tweeted out by Alex Wilson from Fireside Giants, and I'm going to read it right now. And this is why I think having Andrew Thomas come back is more important than having a guy like Barkley or Galladay come back. Jones's passing yards with Andrew Thomas, 285 on average. Without him, 158. That is a 130-yard difference. Now that's scary. That's scary. And I think it's really going to help the Giants this week and play into their game plan. And then defensively, I mean, you guys, we pretty much talked about it before, put pressure on Tom Brady. The Bucs have 2 good tackles in Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs, and they're good in the interior as well. Ali Marpet, 6th-ranked guard in the league, and then Alex Kappa as well. So that is my rant on the trenches because we have sucked their majority of the season, Brian. And that leads us to you and what your keys of the game are for Tampa Bay.
So in these last 2 losses, the biggest problem has been, I mean, I know I talked about Brady as a calming presence. Things have gone a bit awry, and it's happening on both sides of the ball. Just in these last 2 games against I keep wanting to call them the Redskins, against the Washington football team and against the Saints. First downs from penalties, 8 in 2 games. I mean, I just talked about that 2-minute warning penalty where William Golston jumped the line. Washington got another free score. I mean, thank God it was only a field goal. At least, kept us in the game a little bit. But you can't give up 8 first downs with stupid mistakes like that and expect to win a game, especially when your offense is struggling. So third down efficiency would probably be my second one. It's been decent. 8 of 13 against the Saints, 4-10 against Washington, which isn't great. But I think if they can take care of those 2 things, that'll at the very least, make me calm. Because I'm sure I'm going to be, pulling my hair out as Daniel Jones throws it over our secondary's heads for a few bombs for a touchdown. So, but yeah, those are the 2. If we can keep that on track, I'll be a little bit more in tune with us, pulling off a W.
All fair points. I think this game just really screams super tight, close game at the very end. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I mean, Hank and Sam have been touching upon this all week. We're not favoring our team by any means, but we think the 11-point line is a little bit disrespectful with the way the Bucs are playing right now and with the way the Giants are playing right now. At least, also, the Giants have won 2 out of their last 3. So, Brian, you're right. The Giants are trending upward right now. And you look at who they've beaten, it's the Carolina Panthers, currently slotted as a playoff team, and the Las Vegas Raiders. Also, I don't know if they still are now, but they were at least currently slotted as a playoff team before this past week. So it's very valid. It is very valid. And I think if the Giants have any shot of pulling this upset off, we have to talk about the players that will make it happen, which transitions us into our next segment, players to watch. And Sam, I'm going to start with you. Give me a player or 2 from the Giants and the Bucs that you're looking at on Monday night.
My player to watch for the New York Giants this week is going to be Xavier McKinney, mostly because of the fact that the Giants secondary has been fantastic. He's been fantastic. He was our player of the week several times this season. Brian has also mentioned how much he likes him as a player. So he's definitely going to be my player of the week. Tom's been throwing interceptions. Granted, that one that got popped out by the ball handler might have been more of a fumble, but it seems like that's kind of the demise of Tom Brady, right? Of these interceptions. And Xavier McKinney is somebody who's doing that for us. So he is my player to watch for the New York Giants. And on the Tampa Bay side, our old friend Jason Pierre-Paul. I mean, it's always like kind of like sad to go up against JPP because like he was great on our team, and when he left I was like a little upset, but something that is our demise on our offensive line is not as strong as the Buccaneers is, and something that really gets on Daniel Jones and would help kind of makes him tank throughout the game are the sacks and the pressures and the tackles. So JPP is obviously someone who's very good at that on the Buccaneers side of the ball. So hopefully we can contain JPP a little bit, but I have a feeling that he is going to be going after Daniel Jones like nobody's business. Those are my two players to watch.
I like the point you made about JPP. First of all, like athletes will never tell you this like straight up face to face, but you just know whenever they go up against their former team, it gives them that added amount of motivation. So
yes,
that makes a lot of sense, and that's probably who I was thinking. However, with that being said, my Tampa Bay player to watch is Devin White. This guy has 79 tackles. He led the team in tackles last week against Washington. He is always a threat on that side of the ball, and if it wasn't for if it wasn't for all the attention that Tom Brady had, I think you could very well make the case that he was probably the Bucs MVP of that Super Bowl run, or at least one of them. So I would definitely say Devin White for sure. However, for the Giants, my player to watch this week, I'm going to have to go with Leonard Williams. This guy has been has been slowly getting better over the past few weeks, and now he's pretty much, I want to say he's now tied among the team lead in sacks right now with 5.5. He also leads the team with 10 quarterback hits. So, he's definitely going to be putting a lot of pressure on Tom Brady. And let's not forget, this guy's no stranger to Tom Brady either. Remember, he played for the Jets back when Tom Brady was at the Patriots, like right at the end. So I think Leonard Williams is going to be a very key factor for the Giants in this game, without a doubt.
Brian, who do you got? One for the Giants, and you can mention a couple for the Bucs if you want.
So actually, I'm going to flip it around on you because I like two of you guys on the Giants here. Sam just mentioned one already, but Xavier McKinney and also James Bradbury. Both those guys in the secondary have been huge the last 30 weeks. And listen, Brady's a little shook. If he's throwing these interceptions, most of the time he's calm about it. Didn't happen though last week. Usually playbook is thrown out the window and he's restart has a nice game. Didn't happen. 2 losses in a row, and now he's going up against these two guys in a secondary that I think is probably better than both of the two teams that we've just come off of losing to. So listen, if he's struggling against worse opposition, I already said I really like McKinney. Wish we could have him, and then James Bradbury as well. But even in the Kansas City loss, both of them played pretty well. So those are my two players that I'm going to be watching, because if Brady starts struggling, if that coverage on Godwin is tight, if we don't get Gronk back, I think things could get really frustrating on the sidelines there for Brady, and then that's going to transition onto the field. For the Bucs, it's got to be Devin White. The secondary is just completely depleted. They need him to have another massive week. He's going to be tackling absolutely everyone. I think this is probably going to come down to a Kadarius Toney versus Devin White battle here for a lot of this game. He's become one of my favorite receivers for you guys. I don't get to watch much action, but like I said, he's developed very well very quickly, and he's got the speed. Both of those guys have elite speed, so whoever wins that battle, I think that could be a turning point in how this game evolves and ultimately turns out.
Yeah, I agree. And Toney is the leading receiver for the Giants, 352 yards. That's first on the team. So I definitely agree with that. And then Bradbury, you mentioned McKinney has 4 picks, but Bradbury is 3. And Bradbury also has 10 passes defended. So he's going to be matched up against Mike Evans. But is there anybody from the Bucs you had in mind, Brian?
I mean, yeah, besides Devin White, I guess. I guess I'll just throw in Gronk, just if he's on the field or not. That could open up everything, honestly, for Brady. It's a face that, he's used to. And in those situations where, you're getting pressured and you need someone to just rely on, he is that reliable player for Brady. Just, quick stat comparison for the 2 guys who are behind Gronk, which is OJ Howard and Cameron Brate. Don't think Brady trusts them as much. Gronk in 4 games had 16 receptions on just 22 targets, while Brate in 9 games has just 14 on 18, and OJ Howard 9 games, 13 out of 19. So I think those guys, I would have to go back and watch, but if those guys are dropping, I would put probably the mistake on the receivers. I don't think those are balls thrown by Brady that were terrible. So if he's getting to a point where he just doesn't trust throwing to those guys, that's going to be another thing where it forces him to throw to guys like Mike Evans and Godwin even more. And it becomes predictable. So yeah, if Gronk gets back, that makes it less predictable for us. It gives them another weapon, a very good weapon, I'll say.
I just have to add to that really quick, and I know for a fact that it's his tight ends dropping the ball or not making correct plays, because every time he does that and they either drop the ball or the play isn't completed, every single time I go, Gronk would have caught that.
Yep.
Gronk would have caught that. And it's just like it's just the fact that they have so much chemistry together. It's just they're so close and they just know each other so well, and that's why they work so well together. But every time he targets like Brate, I think he maybe dropped a touchdown at some point or something like that. I forget what it was, but I would literally every single time I see it, I'm like, Rob would have caught that. He would have definitely been right there for Tom. So I definitely hear what you're saying there.
Even Brate's touchdown last week got deflected, and it was coming in like a bullet, but it got hit at the line and came in a little softer. And when I saw how fast he threw it, I was like, "Oh God, he's gonna miss this." But luckily, took the juice off it with that deflection. So
yeah, he got lucky, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm just gonna say, obviously for Tampa Bay, I mean, my 2 guys. I mean, I got Brady on here. I mean, 3rd quarterback in passing efficiency. The Bucs give up the least amount of sacks in the NFL, and their offense has scored the most touchdowns in the league this season. And I know PFF, you can say what you want about it, but Brady is ranked number 1 on PFF. And for a guy who's 44 years old, 27 touchdown passes and almost 3,000 yards in 9 games is quite remarkable. But a guy I'm really worried about, Brian, you did pick Gronk because the Giants cannot cover tight ends, and we know that. If Gronk plays, the Giants are in dear trouble. But Leonard Fournette. Last week, he didn't have his best game, but on the year, he's been pretty solid. He's been pretty consistent, almost 500 yards. And Hank, you brought up a point about playoff Lenny, who was a real key player for the Bucs down the stretch last year. And again, the Giants can't stop the run. I mean, we said this earlier on in the show. We've said this in previous weeks. Austin Johnson, Danny Shelton, those are our guys that are trying to stop the run. In addition to Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, yes, but the guys playing the zero tech position, they're not cutting it. They're really not cutting it. And it really –
we need him.
Yeah, exactly. Which brings me to the Giants. I'm picking nobody that's on the script. I'm not picking Daniel Jones. I'm not picking Saquon Barkley. I'm picking Azeez Ojulari. I'm picking Azeez Ojulari because if you're going to win this football game, you have to put pressure on Tom Brady. And Azeez Ojulari, maybe outside of Leonard Williams, is the best pass rusher on this roster. Also has 5.5 sacks, 2nd-round pick out of Georgia. And him and Quincy Roche are starting to complement each other very well, where they've put 3rd and 4th-year players on the bench. That's how quick of an impact these 2 guys have made. Quincy Roche got cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers on cutdown day, and he's now more than likely going to be starting for the Giants within the next couple of weeks, if not on Monday night. I mean, even if he doesn't start on Monday night, he'll probably see more reps than Zimenez and Carter. In fact, I'd make Zimenez a healthy scratch. I'd put Ellerson Smith in there over Zimenez. That's how confident I feel in Ojulari on Monday night getting to the quarterback. I think he's going to be a beast, quite frankly. I was thinking about Jones, but look, the primetime games really scared me. He's 0-7 in primetime games, and I hate that we have to pin this up for the audience to look at, but if that brings any recipe for success for Tampa Bay in this game, take advantage of that. Make him uncomfortable. But yeah. So one last question for all of us before we make our game predictions and just go down the injury list. Brian, I think I already know the answer because I think I know you pretty well by this point. One player you would steal from the Giants and why? I feel like we've been talking about him the whole show, but
well, I'll let you lead off then, Tom. Who do you think it is?
It's X.
X gonna give it to you.
It is. Good call.
SEC.
Well, hey, you had to recover earlier in the show because of the SEC talk, and you just went ahead and picked Ojulari as your player of the game for the Giants. So straight out of Georgia.
He's got you, Tom. He got you there.
You one-upped me, and now I have to listen to you guys bash Notre Dame tomorrow, how they only moved up one spot in the rankings. So
hey, I'm pro Notre Dame.
I know.
But no, so thinking about this question, I was going back and forth. It's more of like a short-term versus long-term thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, McKinney is who I would want right now. We are very depleted in the secondary. He would be an instant help. But if we were talking like super long-term franchise type thing, I would probably, even with the injuries, just steal Saquon. Our most recent draft pick of Ronald Jones, he's a decent back, but Saquon is more, he's that dude. Ronald Jones is okay. I don't think he's ever going to be a franchise player. We got Fournette getting old, he's not going to be here much longer. So yeah, long term I would have gone with Saquon, but for this season, I gotta get these wins now while we still got Brady. So I would take McKinney for right now.
Sam, who are you stealing from the Bucs?
From the Bucs? I mean, why not take JPP back? I mean, we could definitely use somebody like him on our defense, even though our defense is pretty strong right now. I'm not gonna say Tom Brady because I don't want him. I honestly have enjoyed watching him play, not for the New England Patriots, but we'll go on the defensive side. JPP, we loved him on the team when he was here. I'd love to have him back.
JPP, I like that one. But that's not who I was going to take. Devin White is my pick. Love that guy. He's an absolute beast. I would have absolutely loved to take him in the first round for the record of 2019. Not that I'm complaining about Daniel Jones. Not complaining about Daniel Jones at all, but I like that guy. Really good.
He was literally the pick right after Daniel Jones, too.
I know.
I was just gonna ask what pick you guys had because White was what, number 5?
We had
White was 7.
7.
Okay.
We were 6. You guys were 7 that year. Hank, well, you took mine, and I just want to say one thing. If you're starting an NFL franchise today, and you have to start with one player, no quarterbacks, any positional player not named a quarterback, you're taking Devin White, at least in my opinion, right? Because he can do everything. He's the best linebacker in the NFL, interior linebacker, inside linebacker, not edge rusher, inside linebacker. He can run with running backs in coverage. He can run with tight ends in coverage. He can run with wide receivers in coverage. He could stop the run. I don't know if there's one true blatant weakness to his game. And as dull as this might sound, I'm going to agree with Hank and say Devin White. But one honorable mention, and Sam and Hank are going to love this. I'm stealing Ryan Jensen to replace Billy Price at center.
That's such a good one. That is such a good one.
Too.
I want to switch mine.
I like that one as well.
Billy Price
Brian,
drives
you
me
don't understand
up a wall.
how horrible this man is. He literally blocked Devontae Booker from running in the Chiefs game.
We had to give up BJ Hill for that guy? Seriously?
He is absolutely the worst Giant on this team.
I'll tell you what, Ryan Jensen is, I mean, that's out of right field. I'm surprised you went with that, Tom.
Well, Hank was mine.
I was actually expecting you to say someone along the lines of Tristan Wirfs, to be honest.
That would be a good one as well. Ryan Jensen, though, I love him. Me and my family laugh every time we're watching him. He is one of the goofiest guys, and it didn't work out pre-Brady because he loves to troll, I guess is what I'll say. You know, he's picking at everyone, not picking fights, but, you know, trying to draw those penalties. And before Brady, he would always take it a little too far. He was that guy who just, you know, pushed one time too far and he would get the flags on himself. But now that Brady's there, he'll do that. And Brady will give him that look like, hey, you're on the line. And he's snaps right in it. It's like an army sergeant telling a soldier, you know, hey, cut it out. And Jensen, it's phenomenal to watch. So I'm loving that you just went with that pick.
There they are. Yeah.
I love the story of when Brady ended up in Tampa Bay too. I heard a story about how Tom like called him up and was just like, hey man, like I'm your quarterback now. And like he was like, it was like 7:00 in the morning or something like that. Like Ryan was just waking up and he was like, whoa, I'm on the phone with Tom Brady right now. Like, I don't know what to do. I think they have a really good relationship.
Absolutely.
If I were in that spot, I would have had to like slap myself to make sure I wasn't.
Yeah, you're like, huh? Tom?
Yeah.
Brady?
But let's get to this injury report. Quick rundown of who might be in, who might be out before we make our final game predictions and sign off. The biggest news is that the core four are expected to play on Monday Night Football for the Giants. Thomas, Golladay, Tony, Barkley. It's a lot of names. That is a lot of names. And we're probably not having Sterling Shepard, but you still got Darius Slayton. You got John Ross. You got Saquon Barkley, Devontae Booker, Evan Ingram, who actually led the Giants in targets in that Bucs game last year when they lost 25-23. And I'm looking at the injury report. Barkley was limited today. Devontae Booker was limited. Colin Gillespie was limited. Sterling Shepard did not practice. He's not going to play, in my opinion. Caden Smith did not practice, but he's been battling a knee issue all season. And since the game's on Monday, I think he's going to play because the man hasn't missed a game. And you can't run two tight ends when you have Evan Ingram. You need at least three tight ends active, and especially with the offense Jason Garrett likes to run like it's 1995. So you need that 13 personnel set.
I thought we were going to make it to a show without bringing him up.
Well, you know what? The Giants are
born yet in 1985, man.
The Giants are one of two teams in the National Football League that have two fullbacks on their roster. The fullback is a dying breed. Half the league probably has one. That's how ridiculous the Giants are with their personnel. Nate Ebner and Lorenzo Carter did not practice today. Ebner might be back. Lorenzo Carter, I hope he feels better. Hope he's not sick, but I really don't care if he plays, if I'm being honest, as bad as that might sound. I really just don't care because we have better edge rushers, right? Roche and Ojolari. And I want to see Ellerson Smith. That's another guy I want to see. We spent the 4th-round pick on him. Guy had 15.5 sacks at Northern Iowa 2 years ago. I'm sorry, not 15.5, 19.5. And that led all of Division I. Yes, they're FCS. They're not FBS. But still, that is very impressive. Sam, why don't you take us through the Bucs injury report? I know I had you put this together, and there are a couple of last-minute changes. So why don't you walk us through?
Sure. So actually, it just took us a while to find the Bucs injury report. They did not update it. We found it about 5 minutes before the show started. But starting with wide receiver Antonio Brown, despite whatever's going on in terms of his vaccine status, he did not participate in practice today. Cornerback D. Delaney is dealing with an ankle and a concussion. He did not practice today. Limited today was Chris Godwin with a foot injury, which could be beneficial for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Gronk was back full participant after dealing with a back injury for quite some time now. So that's definitely going to be good for you, Brian, because Gronk coming back into the game is a major game changer. JPP dealing with shoulder and hand, again, full participant. And linebacker Vita Vea did not participate in today's practice due to a knee injury.
That's big if Vea doesn't play. I mean, I think I hope he does if I'm a Bucs fan, because take away the run right then and there.
Yeah, you were talking about the trenches earlier. There you go. That would be a massive loss for us.
Yeah, there's multiple positions I care about, and Brian knows that I'm a huge tight end buff. I'm a huge tight end buff that Brian actually tweeted out a tweet about Brock Bowers next week, and now I actually want him on the Giants. I might want him on the Giants more than Mike Mayer at this point. I'm not even sure. But that number 87 wearing a tight end jersey, or tight end wearing a number 87 jersey, is definitely a promising sight for me, at least. But Brian, as the guest, it is time. Much anticipated game predictions, and you will go first. Who's winning this football game?
Man, I would love to call a win for you guys, but I can't. If Brady loses 3 games in a row, I think things will go nuclear, and he's going to start fighting people in the streets. Maybe not fans, but the players. I do think it'll be close. You talked about the line earlier at 11. I think that's probably more of a focus on, the whole Brady redemption thing. Like you said, he probably, at least in my memory as well, I don't think he's lost 3 games in a row. So I'm sure that's just a little bit of Vegas giving him a little bit of juice there. I'm going to go 23-16 Bucks.
I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring. I think we're gonna be dealing with a bit of a shootout if our offensive coordinator can learn how to pass the ball. But unfortunately, I have been literally dealing with Tom Brady my entire life. And there's something that my dad taught me, and it's never bet against Tom Brady. It's a very hard thing to do, coming off of 2 losses, like I said earlier, a primetime game in Raymond James Stadium. I would love to see the Giants win. I just do not think it's going to happen. Again, with Daniel Jones's record in lights, also not great. But I do think it's going to be a very, very good game. I think it's going to be very close, and I'm going 31-27 Bucks.
I like that score. Should be an interesting game, but yeah, I can't bet against Tom Brady as much as I really want to be the one guy who picks the Giants in this. I can't do it. I'm gonna say 23-19 Buccaneers.
Watching too much Monsters Inc. Hank.
I know. Yeah, you know exactly where I was going with that. I love that picture. Say.
Well, it is up to me, and I feel like when there's a clean sweep, it never goes somebody's way. Brian broke it last week. Brian, if you pick the Giants, I'm like, wow, I never would imagine a Bucs fan. I wouldn't expect a fan of an opposing team to pick us coming on this show unless their team's really, really bad.
I'll tell you what. If you pick the Giants, I might have to switch to reverse the jinx, because that might be a little scary here.
Well,
or sorry, if you pick the Bucs.
I think the Giants are going to bring this game into overtime. I think this game will be decided in overtime. Tom Brady's going to struggle in the first half. The Giants are going to pull off the typical Giants script, get out to an early lead, like a 6-3, 10-3 lead. The Bucs are going to take it back. I think Daniel Jones is going to come back. They're going to score a touchdown to tie the game. They're going to go into overtime, and then Tom Brady is going to be Tom Brady, and the Bucs are going to win by a final score of 30-23. We will score the exact same amount of points that we did last year. against them. So, in overtime, though. Actually, no, don't kick the extra point if they score, right? So 29-23, pardon me. 29-23 will be my final score prediction. So,
Hey, at
clean
least we all
sweep for Tampa Bay. I love that we just clean sweep for Tampa Bay. I love that. It never goes
the Giants
our way.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned now.
we all have the Giants covering.
Yeah, I think they'll cover for sure at 11.
Yeah, I think
you're
that's
very good at
safe,
covering.
Safe bet. Very safe bet to pick the Giants line in this game. But Brian, any final thoughts before we let you go? I know we have a little bit of prep to do tonight before our early kickoff tomorrow morning.
No, just thanks for having me on. Listen, I'm rooting for the Bucs, obviously, but I hope it is close. I like the overtime call. Get us some free football. So, yeah, it should be a great game, and I look forward to watching it. I hope it's interesting, to say the least.
All right, Brian. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. If you can plug From the Stands in one more time, we really appreciate it. And thank you so much again.
Yeah, sure. If you like college football, you can find us on YouTube and Facebook as From the Stands Sports, on Twitter, From the Stands US. Yeah, we do a game day show every week, and we cover the games on Twitter every Saturday. So it's a good time. And like I said, if you like watching Tom, you'll get a double dose of him. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Right,
Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Good luck.
All right. See ya.
All right. Brian McArdle of From the Stand Sports, a guest that we all love to talk to, grab his insight on things. He's usually spot on with his predictions, but only 16 points he has the Giants scoring. So that's going to be an interesting feat to see if we're able to accomplish that or not. But Sam and Hank, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off tonight and head over to some Thursday night football?
Yeah, Thursday night football Super Bowl rematch with Patriots Falcons. First of all, I just have to say real quick, if you guys are watching right now, we did not plan the all white situation. We did that because we're all connected in our brains. Giants are wearing white color rush on Monday, the one that Hank's got on right now for Saquon. So that's just that thing. But on the other side of things, I'm very excited for this game. I am surprised they gave us so many primetime games, to be quite honest with you. But we love a good primetime game, watching Giants football. I really hope that this is as close of a game as we are predicting it to be. If we beat Tom Brady at home on primetime, my God, the playoff discussions we will be having next week. It will be immense. But I'm very excited for this game. And I hope the Giants end up pulling it out and that we're all wrong.
Well, you know what, Sam? It's fitting that we mentioned the greatest game ever played as being one of the games that brought like football on the map. And the Giants, well, for better or for worse, they get a lot of primetime games, probably because, it's New York and they're one of the original flagship franchises of the NFL. So it kind of makes sense, like regardless of what the record is. But with that being said, I'm going to say the exact same thing I said before the Chiefs game. I'm not going to ask for a win because I'm afraid that might be a little too much to ask for. And I feel like these days that never really ends well with me. I'm just going to ask for this game to be watchable. And assuming the Giants do lose, I want to feel like, oh, well, you know what? At least the Giants gave it their all. At least they made it close in the end. I know that kind of sounds like a terrible mentality, but again, it's just that's how low my expectations have been, and that's just what the Giants have done to me over the past decade. I'm sorry.
It's all right, man. I mean, look, it is what it is. Let's hope that the Giants are able to come off with a win on Monday night. And folks, speaking of Monday night, obviously with Thanksgiving being a week from tonight, we won't be having a live show next Thursday. Next week, we're probably going to do a pre-recording at some time on Wednesday, probably. Folks, make sure to subscribe to all the Big Blue Avenue social media accounts, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. And of course, like the Facebook page, Review and Preview Sports, if you want to catch our Facebook live streams every week. Hank and Sam, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. And let's go Big Blue.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.